Welcome to today's Wealth Chat, where we talk about business, banking, and real estate. Okay, I got my beautiful co-host right here, Benaisha Poole Watson, where we're about to get into it with our special guest today, BK Hopgood. All right, we got the brother in the building.
Yes.
Right? I'm excited. So tell us, you're like a serial entrepreneur. You've been doing this thing, you're talking about 30 years. I'm like, so tell us what you do. And did you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
Well, I actually did. And again, thank you guys for having me on your show. You know, tremendous opportunity to be able to share with like-minded individuals as we're talking about wealth. But I actually did. My mother was a 30-year cosmetologist until she retired in '94. And my dad, who's been deceased now 40 years, was an entrepreneur owning hotels and businesses in downtown Oklahoma. So wow. I like to say it's in my bloodline. But I've been doing this thing now for about 30 years. Started out shining shoes, very humble beginning, and parlayed that into many other ventures in this road of 30 years of being in business. So I've had great success, but I've also had some blunders and some falls, but I've been intentional about my comeback these last 14 years.
Wow. That's strong.
It was the shining shoes for me.
Yeah.
I love to hear where we all come from,
Yeah.
and majority of us have extreme humble beginnings. A lot of us work for free. We did things that a lot of people wouldn't do, and that's why we are here today. And so I appreciate having you on the stage because I just feel the energy coming off. The way you talk is it's like
it's giving. Right. It's some James Earl.
Yes.
Jones.
Smooth.
Yeah, so talk about your businesses. You said you have several businesses. You're in banking and...
Well, my main bread and butter, as I like to say, is real estate and finance. So I've been doing that for over 26 years. So we're a hard money lender, or we like to call it soft money lending, because we are competitive sometimes with conventional lending. And then I'd also do real estate. So we do developing as well as buying debt as well. So that's something I enjoy doing. And then I ventured into the cannabis space about 6 years ago. And I did that really because of my mother, because she suffered with neuropathy. And something else you guys didn't know, I'm a preacher, so I've been preaching forever.
Wow.
You know, I've been preaching. So, but I'm in the cannabis space, providing health and wellness to those individuals that need it as well.
Wow, super strong.
So I want to start with the business, the banking.
Yes.
And so when you kind of the hard money versus the soft money, give us a little bit more on that. What makes you more competitive than your traditional compadres out there?
Absolutely. Whereas traditional banking would require, much investigation on not only the borrower but also the asset. Soft money or private money lending really values the asset, or it's better known as asset-based lending. So they value the value of the asset more than the person. So a person can have not too great a credit, but the asset is wonderful, and there's a lending opportunity for it. Not high LTVs. We're capped at about 70-75% LTV. But the asset is what drives private money lending more than anything. Whereas a person might have been denied because either of experience or possibly not enough personal financial or debt to income ratios on the personal financial. If that business or that real estate is strong, then the money could be delivered knowing that the collateral is secured by a mortgage if that borrower does not perform. Thereby, it becomes a benefit to the lender. Because if the real estate can be converted, the loan can be made.
So what's the average borrower's down payment look like? Does it vary?
Well, it's between 25 to 30%,
Okay.
depending on the score of their personal credit. If they have jacked up credit, they might have to come to the table at least 40%. But it's not opposed for them to go get a mezz or a second to participate in that down payment or financing to limit the amount that they have to bring to the table.
Do you use land as collateral?
Land is a part. We don't like to do a lot of land loans. We're capped at 50% LTV on that, but there needs to be a fixated asset on it that is at least producing some type of an income in order for it to be worthwhile for a private lender.
Are the terms fixed?
Terms are fixed for a period of time, not long period of time, but short term. It'll be considered bridge lending, so the max term will be about 36 months. amortize over the 25 years. So we definitely want them to have an exit strategy in place with conventional money, thereby giving them time to get their finances together or have proof of performance based on them having this particular loan.
Is there a maximum that you go to? Maximum loan limit?
There really is no max because, as you well know, there's major participation when a loan gets to a certain amount. So, if it gets to 50, 100 million, we're bringing in participation from other private lenders so everybody can get a dab. So there really is no max. It definitely has to be the strength of the project to get up to 100, 200 million, and it has to make sense. Typically, that large size of a loan, the borrower or the sponsor is strong, the project is strong. We definitely not going to lend that kind of money to a person that's just getting started. Give them 5, 10 million, but not 50 to 100. But there's really no max.
So your ideal client is definitely an investor, not somebody going for primary home. Investor, residential and commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
So everything is business purpose lending.
Got it. How long have you been doing that?
26 years. So I started out as a broker, and then I parlayed that into a conduit lender. So, as I would like to say, back in the day, 2005, 6, 7, and before the market crash, we had a conduit line with SunTrust, Humphreys, and Wells Fargo Foothill, about $150 million line of credit, originating the debt, closing in our name, and then selling it off after closing to SunTrust or Wells Fargo.
Do you see a lot more people of color starting to move into the world of investing, or would you still say your average demographic is our other counterparts?
No, we are definitely seeing a lot of African Americans coming into this field. Now, when I started, there was not a lot of us. I mean, I was taught business in general by people that don't look like us, which I'm somewhat indebted to them, and I'm appreciative because they showed me how to do business in a way that is dog eat dog, and it's competitive and it's not show friends, it's show business. So I have that edge on me. But I'm glad to see a lot of us coming into the picture, especially in the finance world, understanding banking, understanding collateralized mortgage obligations, syndication, secondary market to sell off, because that is the way of financing, to be honest with you.
How did you get into, you mentioned banking and then cannabis. How did that bridge come?
Well, cannabis, I was not seeking for. So my mom suffers with neuropathy. She was diagnosed with this in 2008. So in 2016, she broke her ankle because she took too much of an Oxycontin that made her a little wobbly as she was going to the bathroom. So I decided to go with her to her pain doctor to figure out, is there any other alternatives outside of these narcotics that is not helping, and our body's becoming immune and it's not helping with the pain, in which I grilled him and was very upset because my mom broke her ankle. She had to have surgery. And he said, man, we just prescribe in medicine. But there is an alternative I can't prescribe, I don't know much about. It just became legal in the state of Oklahoma, which was medical marijuana. Now, my mom, who is saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, and that with a mighty burning fire, and do speak in tongues, as the Spirit give utterance. Never smoked, drank, or any of that.
Be clear.
Said to me, son, I'm not smoking no marijuana to get healed. I said, well, Mom, there has to be more to this. So as I started researching, and during the discovery of this plant, not a drug, a plant, that this plant was mandated by this country to be grown, and that plant, this plant, helped build this country. It was legal until 1974, I believe 76, where Richard Nixon made it a Schedule I drug. So when I discovered that it's a plant and not a drug, and no one has ever overdosed on this, and that there's many ways that a person can use it outside of smoking it, then I began to understand that this could be truly God's plant, God's plan. So I found some hemp oil, put it on my mom's hands and feet. Within seconds, the pain began to leave.
Wow.
What we discovered was what's the number one cause of pain is inflammation. And the number one fight of inflammation is cannabis. So when that happened, I made a conscious decision. I was not going to allow these counterparts of ours to make money off of people that have been incarcerated behind this plant. So we started out as a broker, and we parlayed that into a manufacturer. where we manufacture over 150 SKUs. And so we have formulators and chemists on our team that creates this, and we create a healthy way of living. We're really primarily on the medicinal side, more so than the recreational. But I had to repent to everybody I knew that have indulged in this particular plant and told them, you're not going to hell because you took what God has made. You, me, all of us have an endocannabinoid system inside of us. This is all scientific proven. That endocannabinoid system has works throughout your whole body, and it has 2 receptors. CB1, CB2 receptor, which stands for cannabinoid. It's looking for the cannabis. Your body is looking for it. And for 80 years, you've been deprived from it. And you've been taking all these alternatives which give you side effects, which your body doesn't want. So when I got the knowledge, I've been on a mission to educate God's people about his plant. And we've helped countless thousands come off of certain synthetics and have a better way of living.
Wow. So cannabis, I know it's good for headaches, it's good for backaches, it's good for body. Everything you can think of it is a reliever. Is this in the version of smoking? Is this full spectrum? Can it vary? Does it depend on your symptoms and scenarios on how you intake the cannabis?
Great questions. There are many ways that you can use cannabis. I prescribe not smoking, but the topical, which is something that you put on top of your skin, or subdermal, something you rub into the skin, or an edible, something that you ingest, and a tincture as well. And you'll be surprised, and Lord forgive me if I say anything wrong, the best way to take cannabis is ingesting it and anally. So we create suppositories, which is great for especially women that have that time of the month. It is a reliever of pain. Yeah. So cannabis is good for everything about your body. So there's another part of cannabis that people don't talk about, because we only talk about the medicinal and recreational. But cannabis has over 75,000 usages outside of medicinal and recreational. So we can build a whole house with cannabis. Hempcrete, hemp fiber boards, the whole 9 yards. And it's a renewable energy, so we can get a tax credit as well.
That is so strong. We're just about out of time. Got to get ready to go to break. I want to ask you this. So obviously you could tell he's done all his homework on this. And I love that because, being a believer as well, I think that, we've had this conversation about should we do it, should we not do it? But I like how you really kind of gave clarity to, hey, okay, these are the ways that I suggest from a medical standpoint that, you can help to actually heal your body. Do you have investment opportunities as well, or?
I don't prescribe and invest in opportunities with us, but we can show you how to get in. Because here's the thing, the 2018 Hemp Farm Bill has allowed you to get into a portion of cannabis which produce every cannabinoid, including THC, with the legal limit of THC in the product. So we do have distribution opportunities where we can white label your products, allow you to get in and hit your demographic and your network with these products, especially our elderly. That's who I target, because at the end of the day, they need the relief more than anything.
Yeah. All right, we are out of time. We got to go to break. We will be right back after this. All right, welcome back to the Well Chat. Okay, Benaisha, we were just really getting into it, BK.
Yes.
This is a really good, huge conversation, and I'm glad that you're targeting, the people of God and everyone, because I think we have to learn intellectually and scientifically the impact that this can have in the right way, right? So I love that you're on that, and you talked about the suppositories, the injectables, the gummies, and then when we were going to break, you said your mom dealt with what?
Yeah, so my mom, she was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer. And so they give you 5 years. It's terminal. And they have no cure for it. No one knows what to do. You can do chemo, which she did. Within 30 days, she was remission. But after that, you have to continue to live with it and have like a maintenance. They give you medication. So they mailed her this packet of medicine. Of course, nobody wants to take all this toxic waste, but you have to do it because this is what they tell you to do. So she's taking the toxic waste and is getting to the point where she's continuing to maintain, but she developed neuropathy in her hands and in her feet. And that's how I knew what you were talking about. So if you don't know what neuropathy is, basically it's the tingling in your ligaments, right? Your extremities, legs, and your feet. I don't know if it does your ears, maybe. And so sometimes they have a hard time picking up things depending on how hard this is hitting them. When they walk, they don't feel the ground anymore. And so, you don't want to see anybody suffer. Of course, your parents, my mom is my best friend. And so I watched her try to go through all this stuff where they put these lasers on your feet and try to generate some kind of feeling. Ultimately, I had a friend who had a cannabis dispensary in LA. My mom was in California. And so he gave me all this stuff to give to her. And he's like, look, just give it to your mom. I'm like, well, first of all, what do I do with all this? Like, oh my God, like I'm driving down the street with this liquid in my car. It has a smell to it, but it's not, when you smoke smell, but you know that something's in here because it wasn't in here before. It smells like, marijuana. And so I'm like, okay, let me dry. So it's these oils, and then I went home and I created these suppositories for my mom. So I put them in the refrigerator.
Wow.
And of course I had to help her administer it. She was a nurse, so she knew how to do all this stuff. However, I'm here to support. And I got exposed to the benefits of cannabis from a medical standpoint. And it is so important that we educate ourselves in this space, because a lot of things that first of all, I don't even want to take aspirin.
Right.
I don't want to even take BC powder. I don't know what that is. We don't know what that is. And a lot of things that we generate and what creates in our body is based on these chemicals that we're inputting. Just for superficial things that we get, headache, trauma to our legs, back pain, this and that and other. And so I think it's important that we hone in on the benefits of cannabis. There's so many variations. We would spend all night talking about it. But I had a personal experience with it. And it meant a lot to me to be able to prolong my mother's life through the use of cannabis from a medical standpoint.
Absolutely.
Could she have smoked weed and maybe felt great all day? I don't know. Would it give her the same benefit if she smoked it? But like you said, when you directly insert or ingest it. And let's talk about the edibles. When you say edibles, is it the ones that you see people taking, or is it a different version?
I mean, there are many versions of edibles, but an edible is an edible. It's something that you're going to chew, or it's a candy type of situation, or cookies, or a food.
Wait, so those brownies they talked about in South Central LA in the Snoop Dogg video, that's the one?
That's one of them. Some of those brownies are potent.
Oh, wow.
But edibles, again, it takes about 40 minutes for the digestive system to break down everything and then administer a percentage of the cannabis into the bloodstream. So that's why we say orally and anally is the best way, because it instantly gets into the bloodstream and the people gets the effect of it. But you hear countless testimonies like you have, like I have, about this plant. Now you remember, JoJo and them said, let me go smoke this before I knock somebody out so I can calm my nerves. They really wasn't lying. Because when they ingest or inhaled or took this plant, it hit those receptors and it caused stress to leave. So it helps with stress. It helps with PTSD. It helps with anxiety. It helps with menstrual. It helps with cancer.
Wait, go back to menstrual, because we need to talk about what part do it help? Is it for pain or what? Cramps? Oh, okay. It doesn't make it stop though, right?
Well, no,
oh, dang.
It's just, I know, right?
Okay. That's nature.
But I want to ask you this, because on the other side, from the smoking side, okay, somebody who used to get high in college and high school, and I stopped when I was a senior at U of M. One of the things I noticed that helped me to stop, besides the relationship with God, was that my memory, like I didn't feel like I was being like the sharpest knife in the drawer. It kind of killed my drive, sleepy, I think the first year you get high, you smoke.
What you drink? What you smoke? The skunk?
No. I smoke a weed, child, back then. But so I've seen a lot of negative impact from the recreational standpoint. I've seen a lot of people lose their drive. I've seen a lot of people sleep through the day. I've seen a lot of people forget stuff. They're not as sharp. So let's talk about the variances, because I think it is important to note that our son actually said, Mom, I wish that I would have heard that side before I started smoking, because he's one who has really been like, I'm really trying to stop smoking because this is not good for me. So I want to make sure we talk about that side, because there is that other side that's very real, I think, for a lot of people.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a serious topic of conversation. There is a difference between nature and then induced nature. So you have this thing called indoor or endo. That is,
I don't know about the endo.
That is cannabis that is grown indoors and induced with more potency versus cannabis that's supposed to be grown outdoors and let nature take its course, and you have a level amount of dose. See, there's two plants in the cannabis family, the sativa and the indica plant. The sativa produces more of the hemp, which we get CBD, which there's no psychoactive effect from CBD, CBG, and CBC. CBN, THC, and THCV have more of a psychoactive effect, which the psychoactive effect doesn't mean you're going crazy. It is actually enhancing your insights. It opens up your insights. But when you induce something that was never made to be induced, you can always pollute it. That's in anything. So there are, and there is, particular cannabis plants that are grown indoors, induced with chemicals to bring more potency, that I do not prescribe to. I do not sell. I do not push. I don't do any of that, because again, I want God gave me. He gave me a plant that produces seeds, and that seed is then reproduced when the male and female plant pollinates to reproduce. So the scripture says in Genesis 1:29, I give you every seed-bearing plant that has herbs and is good for consumption.
Right.
Meaning it's put in the ground and it's grown, and the ladybugs go in there, and the spider mites eat the ladybugs and allow the plant to do what it needs to do, and the flower buds, and there is power in the flower.
All right.
But the indoor, I don't prescribe to. And yes, the other forms of cannabis, such as what they call concentrates, okay, that's induced as well. So you have the sugars and the crumble and the diamonds, and where they're using a pipe. That scared the devil out of me. What are you doing, smoking crack?
Wow.
When I saw that, I said, we're not doing any of that.
So not, you're talking about the tube where they put the stuff in? That's a pipe, okay.
Yep, and they light it up, and they want to put that into this thing known as cannabis, which it is, but it's induced with other things to give you a greater high, which can tap into those brain cells. But we deal with God's plant, that plant that has seeds put in the ground, grown outdoors, and let nature take its course, and you get the balance and healthy.
And I love how I think we got to deal with that with our people. Because people mixing a lot. People putting a lot of stuff. They put
fentanyl.
Fentanyl, that's a big deal. We just did a funeral at our church from a 27-year-old girl that was getting high. And, we don't know if the guy who sold it to her told her.
Was this marijuana?
Yeah, it was marijuana,
wow.
but he added it, and unfortunately, it killed her. So earlier this year. So I think that's the discussion that we got to have, because we don't want to lead people to feel like, because it's not all created equal.
It's not.
You know what I'm saying? And we don't want to add to the delinquency. We want to make sure people know, no, there's a right way to use it, but don't think you about to go sit up there with Pookie and them, pull out the pipe and think they said it was all good. No, not all of it. It's not created equal. If that's what you decide to do, that's what you decide to do. But I don't want you to take this conversation as me saying all of it's the same, because it's not.
Right. The one that is that applicable to the pre-rolls? Can someone tamper with a pre-roll?
They could. They could literally. I've seen that happen where they've taken a pre-roll and laced it with a concentrate or the oil, the distillate, and it gives a person a greater high. But again, I don't prescribe to the smoking side of it more so than the topicals, the ingestibles, the subdermals, which is strictly medicinal. And then I also prescribe also to the other usages of this plant. We as a people, it's a part of the wealth here, the information to create other opportunities out of this plant, such as textile and industrial usage, will give us millions, if not billions of dollars. Because again, you can go grow it, which is the hemp, the sativa plant, on land, because you're covered under the 2018 Farm Bill, then sell that plant, the stock of the plant, the oil of the plant, and generate money and create other usages outside of the medicinal and the recreational. That's key.
Do you think there's a lot of opportunities still available for those who want to invest in cannabis, be it that it came out so long ago, so many people made millions of dollars immediately, now we've migrated over to the more medical side of it as an alternative, even though I'm from LA, so we've been experiencing cannabis for a long time.
Right.
The other states are just now catching on, right? So now that it's migrating to the majority of the states that exist, and I live in Texas now, so including Texas is on the fence with getting this thing going. But do you think there's still opportunity for those who want to invest in the space?
I would not advise anyone to invest in trying to be a dispensary.
Okay.
And I wouldn't advise anyone to invest in trying to be a grow for the standpoint of medical. If you're growing, grow for the standpoint of the other usages. It's still time to get in for the other usages, because if you grow enough hemp, enough cannabis to sell off its derivatives, which is the stalk and the oil, you still can make money. But if you put your interest, I'm going to get a dispensary, you're going to be taxed, overly taxed. Like in Oklahoma, there's a hefty tax outside of the federal tax. So you're talking about over 50% in taxes.
Oh, wow.
Who wants
That didn't exist before.
Well, for a dispensary and for the medicinal, that's where your taxes are really coming in at.
Wow. Well, we are out of time already. I cannot believe it, but this is such a great conversation. I learned a lot of insight and some answers probably to some people that are hurting that could use it. And so, but thank you so much, BK. We appreciate you for coming on the show today. This is amazing. Guys, listen, make sure you hit that subscribe button, right? Share this with your friends, your family, and again, Benaisha and I love doing this, love having these conversations. Girl, we always learn so much ourselves, right?
Yes, this is great.
Yeah, this is really good. So until next time, we'll see you later.